Hi everyone, and welcome to another round of me sharing all the projects I've been working on so far for ARK modding. Thank you so much to everyone in the recent creature mods updates and news video. A lot of you were just really excited to see things being worked on, were really enthusiastic about me sharing more as well, and it was just really lovely, some really wonderful comments made, so thank you so much. Hence why I'm now doing round 2 today, because there are so many more projects that are being worked on. Currently, right now, you're seeing some of my first projects. I'm going to go over this in chronological order of when each project was finished. So in terms of when they started, who knows, because some of these are like really jumbled up, but we'll look in terms of what's been finished, like first till end. So you're currently seeing the Mosa, the Therizino. And I also want to quickly address, I do have some people ask me why do I spend so much time modding and making models for a dead game. First of all, I don't believe ARK is dead, I think that's really hyperbolic, but mainly, it's fun, it's profitable, I won't lie, it's really good for money, and I've always been very transparent that, you know, this is all part of my job and career, but also it's really great for learning. I have learned so much as an artist throughout this last year and a half, 2 years modding for ARK. I've learned so much in terms of modeling, I'm learning lots in terms of just making more, you know, pipeline assets, playable creatures, animations, etc. This has been really valuable learning. So yeah, some people, very small minority, do say like, oh, it's a dead game. Who cares? I'm having a great time. And it's really lovely and really rewarding that so many of you have really been enjoying it as well. So from paleoart, we've seen the Megalosaurus, the Mosasaurus, the Therizino, which is now being animated and actually getting quite far along the pipeline. And we'll continue going through some of the old ones that we've already seen before, such as the Buzzbaldia saddle, my first ever saddle from scratch, followed by the Archelon saddle, which is now unofficial. Also got Ledumahadi, which is also going quite nicely in terms of production. Got Cryptoclidus, the Rex saddle, Wallicerops, which last time we looked at this was simply just the trilobite. And then after the Cryptoclidus saddle was my first secret project that I could not share before and I can talk about now. And that was the Helicoprion saddle for Garuga. So if I remember correctly, I think this one we ended up keeping a secret for about 6 months. It definitely was quite a long time, and this was really agonizing because not only was this a second saddle me and Loki had done for Garuga, this was before Edmontonia, but we were really proud of this one. It had so many cool little features, little items and such. We spent a lot of work with the concept artist and generally the team kind of coming up with ideas and really nailing down the design for this. Loki and I went back and forth quite a bit, taking over different aspects of the model. For example, I believe I did pretty much the entirety of the wooden frame. Loki did the straps and all the rope. I did all the little organic pieces like the ammonite shell and the Tuzo tentacle. I made the initial Megalodon teeth, which then she did like a distortion filter and blender and placed alongside the creature. I think she did the chest, which I then decorated. All the little low poly bits, excuse me, such as the harpoons, the little claw there, and the wheel as well, the anchor, the little pliers there, the chains, the scroll. She did all of those. I did the bones. The little eye patch dodo, this part, the sextant. Dude, I made a separate project entirely just to make the sextant in a different like canvas, and then when I was finished with it entirely I imported it into here as well. And like I said, I think we kept this one secret for about 6 months until Garuga had updated the mod and made it public, and it was just suddenly there, available for everyone. There wasn't any announcement for it, so I was really unsure if I was allowed to say anything. But it's really nice to finally be able to talk about this because this is one of my favourite saddles. I just love all the little different bits everywhere. Then after that we have a couple more projects we saw in the previous videos, such as the Honey Badger, Moraxi's saddle, a couple more secret projects I can't talk about, some more saddles for Dragonheart's Broodmother and Lapis Majunga. Also the Lynx, which by the way I said very recently had been abandoned. Nope, never mind, looks like the Lynx may have actually found a new home. Nothing is set in stone yet, it depends on the client and the modder, but that may hopefully now be a thing, so yay, that worked out really nicely. And then we have another secret project that I couldn't talk about previously but has just recently been revealed, and that was the Infernal Curse. So this was originally for Draconomicon alongside the Tyrant Dragon and the Panther Dragon. They've all found new homes now, hence this now being revealed, and this was my favourite one. Very long, very fluffy dragon. Loki's done a retop on the hair cards and really expanded the wing membranes. I'll show some images of that here. And Kami had been animating it, and fun fact, poor Kami, because the tail on this guy is so long, it was giving her a lot of issues, and Kami's a very good animator, so it really says something that the tail on this is causing her grief, bless. But like I said, new home being worked on again. I'm so happy this one's finally been seen. This was my favourite one of all the dragons, personally. Then next we had the Ho-Oh Kamiyama, and then another secret project, and this one was my Suchomimus base for Garuga. The Suchomimus base here as well was actually quite a challenge, and it really taught me, actually, this is the first time I really learned to make things actually thin from this axis. I hadn't realised it until working with Garuga, that I actually made a lot of my creatures really quite hench, quite bulky from the front. And thus working with him and, you know, trying to get this to be the way he wants it to be, really taught me about making things, you know, kind of like this more. Even though they're very large from a certain angle, end up being very thin from others, and that's cool, and I managed to apply that much better to a lot of my other models since. Just having a better sense of 3D and, you know, creature anatomy as a whole. Which then I was able to immediately apply those lessons to this guy here. This was another base mesh I made for another person, and some of you may have actually seen this mentioned in Morinada's sponsораbles. It's no longer a sponsorable, but it was for a brief moment. And I can't remember how much a secret about this. I'm just going to show it, and that's all. But you can see how I learned how this has very similar qualities to the Suchomimus, and how, yeah, working with Garuga was a big help. And then, at the end of the last showcase video, was Elasmosaurus. So I know that means I have actually missed a whole bunch of creatures, because I'm doing this now based on chronological order when I finished a model, not when I started, because I've got no idea when I've started anything anymore, there's so many. But I can't remember if the Elasmosaurus I showed previously was finished or not. This is Evo Plesiosaur, by the way. But this ended up being one hell of a task. These scales are all hand-drawn. And it took a while. Wasn't the biggest fan, I won't lie, but just for the record, pretty much all of these models that you'll see today, I do still have the footage of, and I do plan to make them all into speed sculpts and time lapses for my creative channel. So eventually you will see, actually I'm not sure I did fully record Elasmo. I think Elasmo took so long, and because it wasn't being priced, I didn't need to record it. But I think I got some footage of me working on him. Either way, yeah, so as soon as I have a bit more free time, I have hundreds, probably thousands of hours of footage of all my different various models I will be putting onto YouTube, so that if you want to see the processes, how I do certain things, that will all be available hopefully soon. It's kind of, you know, lower on my priority because it's so much, but like I said, I am hoarding all the footage, so one day you will see how these were made. And thus, now we have the first of many cats. You are going to see quite a few big cats throughout this, and it's really fun, especially seeing my improvement over time as well. This is the first of many, and this is a leopard. This leopard has already been actually it's nearly finished textures, but it's already been hair carded, and Kami's been working very nicely on the animations. This is for a big mod collection that doesn't have a Discord server, doesn't have any public announcements aside from what I am allowed to show. So just, you know, kind of sit by and wait and chill, and this will all be a thing eventually. The leopard was the first one, and this here is the jaguar, which was the second one. This is quite obviously edited from the same mesh as the leopard, but there are a couple of subtle differences, such as the jaguar being overall kind of a bit stockier, its arms and legs being quite a bit wider, its eyes are a lot smaller, ears are a little bit stubbier, and this will all reflect as well in-game, in the models, in the hair colors and textures, that they will actually, they won't look like reskins, they should look quite distinct if you know, stop and take a close look at them. And then it was around this time that I finished the Edmontonia saddle. This one was an undertaking, and I still love this one so much. I think in the end, if I remember correctly, I do believe that I think I did the majority of the meshes, but Loki did the chains and of course the helmet. She blocked out the entire helmet. I think I did the entire base, and I think even the straps. I did do the straps. I remember having a bit of a tricky time positioning these ones. I did make the entirety of the flamethrower saddle. This is my first like really mechanical item. Did I say flamethrower saddle? Flamethrower turrets. Yeah, I made all of these, which was then retopped by Big Al. Loki retopped everything else. And she also made the canopy, which then I went over and detailed everything, and I can't remember who textured it in the end. I think textures may have been done by both Loki and Garuga. I can't fully remember because it was a while ago, but yeah, this was crazy undertaking. And can you see, by the way, the poly count is 367 million polygons. Is that actually the maximum overall? Oh wait, no, yes it was, I shouldn't have done that. Well, we're about to see it max as well, oh my goodness. Yeah, so altogether, 367 million polygons. Obviously that gets baked and it's not that big in game. But yeah, no, kind of crazy this one. Oh, actually, the flamethrower turrets, hold on. But yeah, I think this is what I want to look at. So what's kind of funny actually is that originally I did spend some time like kind of making gears into this. Can we see them though? Oh no, you can see some like gears on the inside there. These I all made from scratch, but I have no experience doing mechanical things whatsoever. So this was kind of me figuring things out with Charizard's very good concept art, very clear. But there was one at some point where, hold on, let me if I do this. Oh, lag. No, I guess it's one big item. Oh no, okay, well there was a point where originally this didn't have a base and it was just a very large and flat kind of drill thing, like one of these. I made another one of these really large, all the blades and such inside that, thinking that it would animate in game and it would spin. I think in the end it was like just too much poly count and we had to make some changes for the overall positioning to make sure that things fit a certain way, were positioned in a certain way. That way the turret chair could animate the full 180 degrees and not give the player any issues. So because of that we had to move things around a little bit, and in the end that entire idea got scrapped. But yeah, no, that was that was challenging. But then after that really big scary saddle, we go into something much more chill, and that was the honey badger saddle. So this, in the end, all of the tier you see was mine. So we have like lots of wicker, lots of bone and such. Really tried to make everything like kind of tied together quite nicely. And Loki, I believe, did some more ropes as well to connect it all together and actually make it into a saddle. And she also added some hair cards as well to the saddle to try and make the wicker actually look quite frayed, and the string as well, which I don't have available to show here, but happy to say that the honey badger is making nice progress. I mentioned that recently that there's a big issue of animation because there's not enough animators in the community overall, but this has been working nicely. Moro has been really cranking out a lot of the programming as well, and I should hope that the honey badger will be available relatively soon-ish. And then it was around this time that I just went on a massive mammal binge and proceeded to make all 6 of the kamiyama mammals pretty much back to back, beginning with the Maine Coon, then the red fox and the Honshu wolf, the Sika deer, the German shepherd, and then the black Asian bear. I've talked about all of these in more detail in a separate kamiyama video. These have all been textured and hair carded and look amazing. I've just recently finished all the eye textures for them as well. I can show that as well in a bit. And Kami is cranking out the animations as well. And we have nearly finished every saddle. And it was also then that I finished the Kirin for Kamiyama. You would be surprised how long this guy took. This actually took longer to make than Mizuchi, the Japanese dragon. Because, you know, with Mizuchi and with a lot of other scaly creatures, sometimes you can do like little tricks to try and make the process just a little bit speedier. Maybe use brushes or alphas or repetitive stamps. Not in this case, no. In this case, every single scale had to be individually drawn, and individually drawn in such a way to guarantee they flow a certain pattern. No stamps I could make or find or purchase actually worked for this, so I had to do it entirely manually. This bit here was with a stamp actually. You can see where it goes from somewhere. You can see somewhere where it kind of goes from like the really clearly hand-drawn ones to ones that are a little bit more repetitive. And even just the repetitive ones took a lot of effort to do as well. A lot of time and effort to make sure they flowed correctly. The face, I am really proud of the face. If I do say so myself, I think this is some of my best work personally. And Loki has done a phenomenal job texturing it. Kami has made it look so elegant in the animations, and I think I love Mizuchi. Mizuchi's going to be awesome, but I think that Kirin may actually be the one that I am looking forward to the most personally. So this one just got very recently released, and Wally Serops now has armor. And I think that is absolutely amazing. This was a really nice and small commission for Lapis. The Wally Serops is now armored in wooden planks, and I just think that is really fantastic. And now it's around the time that I finished another one of my favourite saddles. This was the Desolar Titan Bone Saddle. So this one was really interesting because initially it was supposed to be just a very metallic saddle, large metal plates and such, but I was having a bit of a hard time figuring out how to position the metal plates in such a way where it doesn't clip the spikes, but it still looked just aesthetically pleasing and foreboding. And it took quite a bit of trial and error. This guy really did take quite a while. And the more I played around with it, I started erring a bit more to adding some more organic pieces, such as the pelt underneath. And then further and further, things started becoming a bit warped and a bit bumpy. And I started realizing that it actually kind of felt better as bone. And that's what this has become here. Now, you might be asking, okay, what is it a bone of? I don't know, your imagination. But in the end, I think me and Dragonheart like really enjoyed this process more. I love this so much. I really like the big Ceratopsian skull hip plates. Of course, the actual helmet itself is meant to be a bigger Desolar Titan skull with the horns kind of hollowed out to fit, you know, your Desolar Titan's horns under. And this just feels so badass, and oh my god, seeing this in-game for the first time was crazy! And now, next up, we have another big cat. I did tell you there's gonna be a lot of big cats today. This one is the lion. Now, obviously without any hair cards, so it doesn't have the big mane yet, but don't worry, in the hair cards it absolutely has a mane. This one was, again, edited from the previous leopard and jaguar base mesh, but this one just becomes overall quite a bit bigger. It's got bigger eyes than a jaguar, but smaller than a leopard. It's got very big ears. I think I made the muzzle quite a bit more exaggerative as well. And I actually had a bit of fun with, oh, and I've also added, you know, kind of thicker fur all around here. And for this one, I actually textured it in just for a bit of fun. So a bit of a trick to modelling, which I'd recommend for anyone, is that certain creatures, especially cats I've noticed, can easily feel uncanny. And a good way to help yourself, or colour plays a big part into it, right? Where sometimes, for example, the eyes. Cats have these very distinctive, you know, kind of black sockets around their eyes. And if that's missing, it can be really uncanny. Same with the mouth, it's big droopy jowl bits. Again, if that's missing, it can look really uncanny. And obviously you can sculpt it, but it just doesn't quite read right. It's not connecting in your head properly. So just to really maintain and make sure that this was indeed reading as a lion, what I did do for this was I poly painted it in ZBrush, so that's not how it's going to look in game. This is just like a temporary coat of paint. But by doing that, it allowed me to really see how things are fitting together, and it allowed me to make more key changes such as around the eyes to just really ensure that things are flowing the way they're supposed to, you know? So I can do things like this and realise, oh, okay, that looks really wrong. So I'll put it back into position because the black eyeliner kind of really helps put it together. And then, following the lion, there are some more secret projects that have not been revealed yet, but after that was Armand's Hyperpod saddle. So this one's really fun because not only was it just like a nice, more simple saddle, a typical leather saddle, Armand gave me full creative liberties, so I took some inspiration from the RNAO saddle already in game, so I wanted it to match the vanilla vibe. But because the Hoverpod has its bile, its own biotoxin alternative, I think, I thought it'd be fun to give it some little glass bottles as if that's where you carry the biotoxin in. But what makes me really proud about the Hyperpod saddle is that this was the very first saddle that I have retopped, UV'd, and textured all by myself. Massive thanks to Tristan, Nick, and Al for all helping me and teaching me the process. And yeah, so this is my first textured saddle and I'm just really happy about it. I've not done many more or any textured saddles since because, as you're about to see, there's so many more projects to work on. But this was really cool, and I'm really grateful to Armand for, you know, giving me the opportunity to gamble and try and make him a good looking saddle. So we had no idea how to go down. I think, personally, I really like it, even still now. But also, yeah, once things clear up for me and calm down, I will definitely be making more saddles as well, because this was really fun, and it is incredibly rewarding to see, you know, an entire asset that I've made all by myself make it into the game for the first time. And hopefully the first of many. Actually, speaking of having my first textured creatures in the game, here's another one, the Blighted Majangosaurus, which has just been recently revealed, and I've already made a video of this as well. This was my first time making like a full sculpture of a corrupted creature. Of course, the actual Majangosaurus itself was, you know, given to me, so I did make a Majunga. But I did mess it up quite a bit with all of these custom corrupted, you know, things. And thus, I think this is also my first time texturing a creature model. So thankfully the corrupted style is, you know, quite simple, right? It's black with really cool bits of purple and pink, which I've tried to make look quite like, you know, the ARK corruption, but also just a bit more interesting as well. And I'm actually really proud of this entire method, because what I tried to do for these corrupted creatures was I tried to do it in such a way where it doesn't, it's non-destructive. So even though this is the same model as the previous Majangosaurus, like the same low poly, with the new high poly I made with all the corrupted meshes, it just got rebaked onto the old one. But as a result of that, it means that this is still the same project file as the original Majunga that you see in game, and thus therefore it still has all the original color regions. Here we go, yeah, you can see all the original color regions, and I really wanted this particular method, which I'm quite proud, I just kind of made this up on the fly. I went with this method because it thus meant that I could then add corrupted mesh and textures onto any dinosaur, and they can still have their colorized, they can still spawn in different colors in game. So I wanted to have like an additive solution that could work with any creature instead of, you know, messing it up and making a corrupted one that can only spawn in one color, because that would be really boring. It's a bit rambly, but yeah, I thought it was a really good highlight for me. I'm very proud of this. And I did make some more corrupted creatures, but I can't show those just yet. But what I can show you is the Happy Palace base for Dragonheart's Arcology series. Now for this guy, I actually used this in a tutorial which I will have shown on screen now. So if you're ever curious about how I do all my models and such, like I said, I will be doing all the time lapses as well soon. I'll be streaming again soon. But this guy, Dragonheart allowed me to use this as an example to create a very long real-time tutorial where I go over all my logic, all my theory, pros and cons, why I do X and Y. And the entire idea was to hopefully make something that was about 3D as a whole, not just ZBrush, but kind of the fundamentals and some rules of thumb. As well as a couple of neat tricks, such as how I very quickly and effortlessly do membranes, because that is annoying. And thus, now we have Mizuchi, the last kamiyama creature I'd finished. And this, so like I said, even though the Kirin technically took longer, Mizuchi was still a task, mainly because it was just really laggy and really repetitive. It is very difficult to do clean, repetitive things. And thankfully this all looks really nice in the actual bake in the textures. Loki has once again done a phenomenal job texturing this guy. He looks stunning. And she had a hell of a time retopping this, poor thing. Even though it was her design, I'll blame her. She did the concept art. So in the end, yeah, bless, it was tricky, but I think so far Mizuchi is coming out to look absolutely amazing. We had a professional blender guru to rig it, Moro has been animating it, and he is just coming along so good. I think this dragon is going to be absolutely crazy. You might notice that it's only 39 million polygons. I think Mizuchi in the end was reaching, I want to say, it might have been either 300 or 500 million polygons. Edmontonia had been my biggest project by far in terms of like file size and polygons, and then Mizuchi, I'm pretty sure, overtook it. Which was kind of crazy because my creatures don't normally get that big. My saddles do, but not my creatures. So yeah, I had to go for some really weird tricks just to try and optimize this. For example, he actually has no body. Behind all the scales, you can see that I've actually had to crop out entire parts of his body just to remove polygons or remove mesh just to help my PC perform a little bit better. I have since gotten a PC upgrade, and this is again the lower poly version. This is like the bake ready version, so it's not as intensive now, but previously this one was incredibly laggy. Next we have another secret creature I can't talk about, and then we have the Mosasaur saddle for paleoart. So this was entirely blocked out by Loki, and then I did all the patterns and textures. So I did all of this nice soft looking fabric kind of padding. It's very decimated at the moment, as you can see, because you don't need like a massively high poly one for the bake, although it's nice, but some people's PCs can't handle it. But yeah, so up close, this was a lot more higher poly. Also did a whole bunch of these carvings as well, such as, oh, hold on. Yeah, there you go, this bit here with the obelisk squid and 2 cryptoclidus. Some really fun ideas. And a couple more bits and pieces here, like the little nautilus shell. And then we have the Happy Palace saddle. It's just a regular leather one, which I did experiment quite a bit with to try and get some like nice markings, because it's meant to be like more of an aberrant theme one, and I didn't want it just to be plain leather, so I tried to do like a bit of patterning here and there, and otherwise just kind of adorn it with like more metal studs and such. And thus we have the Industrial Majungasaurus saddle. We've already had a big close look at the final version of this. It just got released recently and I showed off my last video, so I'll leave all that there. But we get a bit of a closer look at just some of the meshes. Had a lot of fun learning jets to make this. To answer some questions, yes, Lapis is planning on just doing more of this in the future. Currently it's mostly cosmetic because Lapis just wanted the mod to be out and playable first. So yeah, there'll probably will be more happening with this, just in time. And speaking of which, this little bit opens. Whee! And then, coming back to the big cats, I cannot remember when I finished the tiger model as the biggest one of the initial 4, but Cameron, bless him, knowing I was wanting to learn and practice Substance Painter, he gave me the opportunity to try and make the tiger one, because even though it's quite a complicated pattern, I love tigers, they're my favourite animal, they're very special to me. So you can imagine I really tried my best to make this like just really faithful to tigers. I have complained in previous videos that a lot of tiger mods, their stripes are quite lacking. I don't want to be rude, right? But I also, you know, kind of wanted to I didn't want to be a hypocrite. So the fact that I have in the past kind of given people a bit of flack for their tiger stripes being quite lazy, especially around the face, I wanted to make sure I did it justice and that I wasn't being a hypocrite. And I still am really proud of this. I love how this has come out, and Loki, she's done the hair cards and it translates so nicely. It's really poofy. It has all these stripes, all the colours in the hair cards. Like I said, there is no ETA for the Big Cats mod, there is no Discord, there's no information. It'll simply be ready when it's ready. But we already have 4 for the initial batch. Now, next up we got the Terrorbird for paleoart, which we really capitalised on it having a very thin, kind of knife-like beak. Really scary looking guy with different creative liberties and inspiration from existing birds to get a very crazy looking beak. And of course in game it'll probably be like a bit more upright, I imagine, but for T-posing purposes, like Ho-Oh as well, we kind of had to make it look just a little bit goofy. And then shortly after the Terrorbird was also Bungatius, also for paleoart. That's a bit more of an endemic creature, kind of similar to the Cryptoclidus, I think, so a much more smaller creature. I think actually Megalodon sized. I don't know much about what's going on with this one. Aside from that, you know, the jaw is going to play a part in its utility, and Clay has made some incredible textures for this guy. And now next up we have the Happy Palace boss saddle. So you can see for this one went for a similar inspiration to Descent Titan, where he had like the big bone effects and such. Dragonheart wanted this one to be aberration themed, so I was imagining this to be more like corrupted wood. It's like a big wooden, like, you know, this really gnarly wooden helmet. These look like bones or antlers. They could also be wood. I definitely went for like a really gnarly kind of wood, and yeah, again, like just trying a bit more, being a bit more experimental with the leather and such to make it a bit more interesting, a bit more elegant. I imagine these to be glowing. I don't know if they will be or not, but I imagine these have like just little glowing bottles to make it interesting. And all of this to be some sort of dark warped metal, whether it could be element or something like a black metal from Valheim. Just overall trying to go for something just really gnarly and really evil looking. So, still working with Dragonheart and his archaeology mod, next up was Boratos. So this I think is actually my first creature for archaeology. So far I've been doing saddles and base meshes. This is my first full creature sculpt, and I still love the tusks. Oh, I am so proud of the tusks. They're actually hollow, and I love how this came out. And actually in the end it was a really easy method I made up to do this. It was just one of those moments where, you know, when you're just working away and you just have inspiration and just, you know, bang, works on the first try. that was this moment. It was a moment of magic, and I still need to make that tutorial as to how I did his hollowed out tusks. This guy will be very fluffy and will have lots of really cool effects. So the sculpt might look a bit goofy. Don't you worry. This has already been hair carded, mid animations and effects, and with everything actually put together, it looks really badass. Just sometimes fluffy creatures can look a bit weird in their initial models, but it'll pay out really nicely. Now, between Boratos and this here Megalosaurus, I worked on another really cool secret project which still hasn't been announced, and it's killing me because I'm really proud of it. So fingers crossed sometime quite soon I can talk about that one. But saying that, Megalosaurus though, we've come a full circle. Megalosaurus was the first model I made for anything ARK related, and you know, a good year or so later, Loki and I both felt like that we can do things better. So this was my rather impromptu model that I think overall it took me about 8 hours in the end. This is an 8-hour sculpt, and there's just so much improvement to the model overall, like so much improvement to the anatomy overall. My fur texturing style as well. So proud of this one. And now we have another big cat. We have Dinophelus, part of the big cat collection for Cameron. This will be phase 2, and as you can see, it definitely has a much different body plan this time. This one do be feeling quite a bit skinnier compared to the other cats we looked at earlier. It's got a bit more of a cheetah frame, almost, obviously like a much more bulkier one. And try something different with the mouth as well. I'm sure this bit here looks a little bit uncanny, but I guarantee that when its mouth closes, it'll look perfectly normal and will just result in a, you know, another scarier roar. Did I colour this one in? I did not. But just like I mentioned earlier, the lion, that this part here is completely normal. It just looks a bit uncanny when it's not coloured in. Hence why, as I showed with the lion, sometimes it's good to try colouring things in. And thus, continuing on with the big cat craze, we have this guy. So this was something I kind of made for myself more, but I did submit it as a potential Evo Plus Homotherium or Sabertooth for paleoart. Unfortunately got rejected. I finished this the same time as I finished the actual Evo Smilodon. Now that's not been announced, so I can't share that, but to get a bit of an idea at least. I think compared to the earlier cats, and especially compared to my very first attempt at Evo Smilodon, I think I've really come a long way, and I'm really proud of this. I'm really proud of all the big cats actually. You know, huge credit to Cameron for funding me so much practice, bless him, he's been amazing. I'm really proud of this one, and we'll see a lot of this in the next couple of felines as well. Now you might be thinking, Becca, you've done too much, I need to take a break. Well, one day I got bored and I wanted to make something simple. That's how Gorgonopsis started. And for my little simple creature, I had a conversation with Cameron, Empiric, and a couple of my other friends in my donator section, and we mentioned just walking with dinosaurs and a Basilosaurus from that being really cool. So months later, I'm bored one day and think, you know what, I want to make a Basilosaurus, and it's inspired by the Walking Dinosaurs one. Not 100% because I did use a bit of my own creative flair, such as the humpback fins, and this was just a personal for fun project, which I did end up giving it like a little loose poly paint as well. So yeah, again, you can really see the inspiration. Yeah, I think altogether, the model, the high poly details, and these colours took me 2 hours. Little bit crazy. And like I said, this was recorded. I do record everything. So eventually this will be available as a time lapse. And then, I don't know if this is a secret or not, but I did have some friends offer to kind of process the Basilosaurus for me because they know that I want to learn. So they retopped it, got it all ready for use, sorted me out a base for texturing, and taught me a couple of little tricks in texturing as well for Substance Painter. These teeth and gums are so gross, and I am so proud of them. Isn't that just vile? Yeah, he has no eyes, unfortunately. But otherwise, yeah, this was my attempt at doing like a much more, you know, lighter patterning for the Basilosaurus. And yeah, it's just been really good, awesome texture practice. We look at the color eyes. Yeah, so it would have 4 color regions overall. Really proud of it. Now, some of you might be wondering, hey Becca, there's a lot of models I'm showing today, but I've missed out on a lot of the ones from the previous video. And yeah, I have. I don't know where some of them, like where they are at the timeline. But the Night Fury is finished. It is half. Don't worry about it, it's fine. But I did finally finish the Night Furies, or the Panther Dragons. These were originally for Draconomicon, now being taken over by Cyrus. So he's going to have his Dracoros? Why did I say that? So fancy. He's one, and we're now going to have these ones as well. This one here is the male variant, and this one is the female variant. So, oh wait, it's got double... There we go. Yeah, this is a female variant, so there'll be 2 different model meshes for each one, and they have some rather particular changes, such as in the tail as well. And I hope a hair cards are going to be done for this, because they're meant to be very fluffy, which I think will contrast really nicely with Cyrus's existing creature. So like a big scary scaly one and a really cool fluffy one. So this here we have a Paraceratherium. This was a personal project. I've shown this before, and that's all I'm going to say. Now, some of you might have seen that Big Al is currently working on a Spinosaurus commission, and I am the one who did the block out for it. And I really love what Al and Clay have been doing with it so far. I am so excited for this guy. Spinosauruses are my favourite dinosaurs, and I don't care which flavour of Spinosaurus they are, I think they're all so cool. So I love this one, and I'm really excited. This one is no mod or commission for anyone. This was, again, just another for my own fun project, but I really love Garuga's Cryolophosaurus, and I wanted to make a cute little version of it. There has been some suggestions of making it as a chibi. I don't know yet, maybe someday in the future, but it was really cute, and I thought it'd be fun to share. Next up, there's a couple of more creatures I can't talk about, followed by the Maine Coon for Moonlight. I tried to make this Maine Coon distinctly different from the kamiyama one, and based on photos that Moonlight provided me, again, just like a lot of the other mammals, this needs hair cards. Cats especially really need hair cards. So yes, it looks a little funny right now, but once it's all big and fluffy, especially comparing to the kamiyama Maine Coon, I already have complete confidence that Loki's gonna make this one really cute and really fuzzy. Now, apparently after the Maine Coon, I've worked on 7 different saddles in a row, but most of them are for kamiyama, and they have not been revealed yet. So I'm going to skip over to the Brute Pithecus saddle for Arcology and for Dragonheart. So this is to pair with the Megaranio, the brood mother. Now I've got the Brute Pithecus, so Megapithecus. And you can see I've learned quite a bit since doing the brood mother one, but I tried to keep to that same style of having, like, you know, this big crazy metal plating, especially for, you know, the Megapithecus. It's so front heavy. I wanted him to be like just really protected at the front and look really intimidating. And I had this idea to like add mammoth tusks, and what I actually did for this is I imported in the mammoth model from ARK, tried to make sure that I had the accurate sizing of the mammoth tusks, so in game that should hopefully be the right size, maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe it could be like, you know, some alpha mammoth or like a bull, I don't know. But yeah, I thought it should be a really fun idea to like kind of just make this feel a little bit more extravagant. You know, from a distance it looks really quite imposing. And then during this big episode of doing all these different saddles, I also finally finished a Hatzegopteryx saddle for Twee. Now, I need to take some responsibility here. Poor Twee waited so long for this saddle, and I feel really bad about it. So for those of you who are wondering, like, oh, why is it being delayed so much? You know, I'll raise up my hands, I'm part of the problem, I'm really sorry. But we finally now have the primitive saddle. And then, a couple of more secret projects later, we get to the really recent stuff now, we have this Utahraptor blockout. This will be for a future project, and that is all I'm going to say about this. These are also the most recent big cats I've worked on so far. This is Smilodon fatalis for Cameron, and I do think that this is probably my favourite big cat I've made so far. And here we have Smilodon populator, the bigger and more hench one of the two. This one I'm really proud of in a very different way. While I prefer Fatalis, I think for Populator here, I've never done like a really hench, you know, muscular creature like this. I mean, I have done in terms of like anatomy and proportions, but not where it's intentionally, you know, bigger than your regular creature. And I feel like I've done a pretty good balance of it all. I've made it look quite proportionate and very intimidating. Just like the rest of the big cats, there will be no information regarding these. They will drop when they're ready. Now, just like Twee in the Hatzegopteryx saddle, so has Dragonheart been waiting for me to finish the Dread Scorpius, and I will just say, by the way, these people are amazingly patient, so understanding. I've had a lot of things happen recently. You know, you think I'm working a lot. There's a lot I've not shown. So I finally finished Dreadscorpius, and this one's gonna be a unit, another archaeology creature. And God, I have made a couple of insects, but I don't think any of them have been made public, so I can't talk about any of them. But this is definitely my most recent one and my most ambitious one as well. And God, this is gonna be crazy to see in game. Like big crazy boss scorpion. I'm very excited for this one. And otherwise, it actually looks like that the Archaeology Dreadscorpius is the last creature, public creature I finished. But that's already in terms of finished projects. I'm not showing any whips yet, and I can't remember off the top of my head. I will say though that I also do a lot of eye textures. This one is for the black Asian bear. This eye texture is for the red fox, and I know it looks a little bit uncanny with the mesh. Obviously it would just be, you know, like a flat image, but this just kind of helps me, you know, put it all together. I really like the fox eye texture. Here we have the Honshu wolf. Here we have the Seeker deer. Now the Seeker deer is an interesting one because some images show that I have rounder pupils and some images show that I have these more typical herbivorous pupils. So there's a little bit of a debate on that one internally, but I think we might be sticking with the herbivore one because it really reads herbivore. German Shepherd eye texture, which is exceptionally brown, so that in-game will hopefully look nice, rich and dark like regular dog eyes do. Then to contrast that, we have the Ho-Oh eye texture, which is going to be more eagle-like, I think it's more like a pheasant, actually, and just very bright and very clear. The Maine Coon eye texture was directly based on photos of Danny's own cat, and it actually doesn't include a shadow. What I did end up doing with this one was I did like a bit of a dark shadow on top, better than that. And it looks like, even though it's very dark here, it looks really nice in game. And then very recently, I finished Mizuchi's eye texture, which so here's a funny thing. I know some people might kind of get at me for this. When it came to Mizuchi's eye textures, I tried some different methods. I actually tried this one first, because I'd seen that in a lot of traditional Japanese art, the Japanese dragons, their eyes and their pupils are really small and very round. And I also want Mizuchi to look intelligent with human-like eyes, so I tried to make smaller pupils like the, you know, accurate ones with, you know, intelligent-looking eyes. And in the end, it doesn't look really great. It looks a bit uncanny. So I chose to forego accuracy and just try to make something that looked nice instead. And the accidental result was I made something that looked like almost like nebula in the eyes, really mystical. And I think we as a team as a whole really preferred this. I did consider doing slits, snake eyes, but I think that would look too aggressive for Mizuchi. Even though Mizuchi and Japanese water dragons are meant to be, you know, more fearsome creatures, they are, I think, scary, lore-wise. We still want to look intelligent, and doing big terrifying snake eyes, as cool as that is, wouldn't really quite fit. But I did try to meet halfway and at least make it a bit more of a diamond shape. And yeah, I love how this looks. And then finally we have the Kieran eyes, another one I really tried to make look more magical. This one's supposed to be like earth tones, sorts of browns with bits of amber and green. And in the end, it kind of feels very autumny. And by the way, yeah, I do all of these in ZBrush. Again, these are all recorded and I will be posting videos of these eventually. Kieran was another case where technically it should have the very wide herbivorous eyes, but again, wanted to go for that intelligent look. So I tried to meet halfway in the middle and go for something that's a bit of a round box. So it still feels, you know, familiar and a bit human-like, but it still has like a bit of a nod to like a typical herbivore, you know, pupil. Now, I don't have written down when I finished this, but this did just get very recently released, and that was the Paleomaraxes. And the Paleomaraxes, so Al and Nick, like I said earlier, know that I'm trying to learn how to do textures and such. So bless them, they all gave me files for their Maraxes and Diamantinosaurus, and let me play around with them. I'm just trying to find the right... Yeah, here we go. I'm trying to find the right thingy for them. Here we go. And this was what I came up with for Maraxes, which Al ended up really liking, and has now been incorporated by Depths into paleoart Ascension. And we did do one for Diamantino as well. I don't know if it'll be added. I don't expect it to be honest, because this is always practice. It's just me learning. But yeah, I like how this came out. I did this around the same time as the Basilosaurus, actually. So this was quite a few months ago now. And I really appreciate that, you know, they're all just encouraging me to learn and like giving me resources to practice with. It's so cool. Okay, I'm going through my files, looking for old work in progress pieces, and this was another one. So this is unfinished. I actually live streamed this with Moro one day. We were doing a dual live stream together. He was working on a really cool dragon, I'm working on this griffin, and I'm gonna fix up the face a little bit. I need to come back and finish this actually, but I did this in, I think I was in one session, and oh dude, I need to come back and finish this. See, this is what I want in ARK. I want like a big scary griffin, like a dragon's dogma kind of griffin. And imagine this, dude, this would be so cool. Obviously all the fur bits are just placeholders. It'd look more like this for the mesh, and it'll all be done with hair cards. But it just gives you a bit of an idea as to how it could potentially look, and it helps, you know, plan out bits like, you know, the big ears. And otherwise, yep, everything else is secret. So for my last thing I will show you guys today, as a thank you for, you know, sticking this long, because this might be a really long video. Oh god, I should probably make these videos more often. Ooh. As a thank you for sticking around with me for so long. Yeah, I am making a Rex, and I'll be detailing the Rex. There is no information on this Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like I said, no Discord server, everything's been tightly lipped and secret, but I'm allowed to show you. Might maybe stream some, I don't know, but everything, you'll see all of these in my Patreon server, so I guess it's a nice little time to plug that a lot of these whips and pieces you'll see really early in my little Patreon corner, and most secret. Sometimes I get secrets I'm not allowed to share. Oh, actually that reminds me, like this guy, I forgot, this one did get announced. This was a really big secret for Garuga, same time as the Suchomimus. Yeah, so the Rex, like I said, I'm going to be doing the full sculpt, all the details, everything. I've not actually done a big scaly creature since Ledimahadi and Elasmosaurus. So it's been a couple of months now. So the Rex is what I'm going to funnel all that energy into. But on the topic of like secret things, things like this, I wasn't allowed to show, but I can show everything else. But yeah, by the way, hi, I also did this for Garuga. He did the entirety of the body. All I did was refine a couple of pieces, add some of like these crazy platings, and the mouth. I offered to do the entire head for him because he was kind of struggling a little bit with, you know, where things place. So I offered to do it for him because I know, bless him, he's so busy with everything else. And yeah, this is cool, this is freaky. I don't know what's happening with this guy now that he's become John Wildcard. Not sure what's happening with these guys, but at least the files are available, and you never know, maybe, hypothetically one day something could happen with these, or maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. We're gonna get so many creatures like Danakiras and Suchomimus in official anyway, so I think we're quite fine for creatures for a while. There's no need to beg for more, but I would like to see this guy eventually. And this guy too. Dude, freaking T-Rex. I'm doing like, you know, the big final boss of sculpting in ARK. Alright, thank you so much for watching. It's been a really long video. I'm sure there's more that I've missed out. Maybe if people enjoyed this, I'll look into doing like these little update videos more often. I don't plan it. You know, I'm really pleased that people like seeing what's happening behind the scenes. I like seeing the processes. I'm really grateful. So maybe I'll give that a bit more focus. But otherwise, I think that is pretty much everything. So, thank you all so much for watching. Really hope you've enjoyed it all. And I'll see you all again next time. Cheers.